Hi, I'm John. Welcome back to the show, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Album War. Usually, the premise of this series is to talk about two or more artists or bands that released an album with the same title. But today, I'm going to put a little spin on this and talk about one band that released two albums with the same title. In this case, a self-titled album. Well, if you've been listening to a lot of great rock and roll in the last few decades, you probably know where I'm going. I'm talking about none other than the great living legends of power pop that are Cheap Trick. They released two self-titled albums in 1977 and 1997, respectively. Neither one of these albums sold very well, but they are considered very strong albums in the band's catalog. But who wins today's album war? As the late great Ed Daring would say, let's meet the principals. Our first album to be discussed today will be Cheap Trick's self-titled debut from 1977. This was released on Epic Records, and it was produced by Jack Douglas. It hit number 207, just coming up short of the Billboard Hot 200 albums here in the United States. According to Wikipedia, it sold about 150,000 copies. The second album that I will be discussing today is the band's 13th album and their second self-titled album. This was released in 1997. A lot of people call this album 1997. This album was released on Red Ant Records, and several weeks after this was released, Red Ant Records went into bankruptcy, thus killing the momentum of this album. It debuted at number 99 on the Billboard Top 200 album charts, and it would have a single that would go to number 119 on the pop charts here in the United States, as well as number 39 on the mainstream rock charts in Say Goodbye. Now, on both of these albums, we have the same lineup. We have Rick Nielsen on all sorts of guitars, backing vocals, the occasional lead vocal. Rick Nielsen started this band over 50 years ago. It came out of a band, I believe, called Fuse. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. And he is still there to this day. He's the main songwriter in the band. We have Robin Zander on lead vocals and acoustic guitar. One of the great voices in rock. He's still in the band. We have Tom Peterson on 12-string bass guitar and backing vocals. Once in a while, he'll do a lead vocal. He's left the band for a few years in the 80s, but came back in 1988 for Lap of Luxury. He was there from 77 to 82, came back in 88. He's still with the band today. And last but never least, we have Bunny Carlos on drums and percussion, one of the great rock drummers in the world, in my opinion. He's no longer in the band. Rick's son, Dax, is now the drummer in the band. I believe he's played on every album from Bang Zoom Crazy Hello forward. We also have Robin's son, Robin Taylor Zander, in the band on when the band goes out and tours. He is on backing vocals and rhythm guitar. So let's discuss these albums. Since I'm getting older and it is hard to read print like this, I'm going to read these song titles from the vinyl. I'm not a big vinyl guy, but I did buy this reissue on vinyl. Now, this album is an outlier in the catalog. They were never this raw again. They never got this close to punk again. For a 1977 recording, it is quite immaculate. Jack Douglas did a fantastic job. A lot of dark themes touched on this album amidst wonderfully written melodic songs with great pop melodies. We start with Hello Kitties, which to this day still opens their concerts. It is a wonderful opener. It starts with that great drum beat, march beat from Bunny Carlos, and then those guitars come in, and when it gets into that main theme and Robin starts singing, it is magical. It is a wonderful opener. It's got these nice little twists and turns to it while Bunny's really laying down that groove. This is a kick-ass track. It gets more dramatic in the last verse when Robin's screaming those lyrics, and it is really cool. Daddy should have stayed in high school. This is where Tom Peterson's 12-string bass is on full display. This is what really distinguished them from a lot of the power pop bands in their day. And this is a song about a pedophile. But it rocks like hell. And it's very slower. It's slower and more grindy, but it's a very memorable song. It's not a song. I don't even know they've played this live. I don't know when the last time they would have played this live. And for any of you who really know Cheap Trick, they mix up their set list every night. They may end a proper set list similar every night, but everything else, they just play whatever they feel. Daddy Should Have Stayed in High School is a kick-ass track, though. Then we get Taxman, Mr. Thief, based on the Beatles' Taxman, not in its execution, just in the title, but it is quite Beatles-esque. This is more mid-tempo, very melodic, very, very cool. And the third verse, Robin again steps it up and gets more dramatic on the lead vocal. Great hooks on this track, great harmonies in the chorus, awesome. Cry, Cry, this is more of a slow, it kind of has a blues feel to it in the way it's played. This is a song that would go over really well live when you listen to this. It's got memorable guitar lines here from Rick, very, very cool, but it's got more of a blues feel, dun 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 rhythm to it. Very cool. Oh Candy, this is like power pop bliss. The chorus on it is magical. This is a song that is about suicide. But if you heard the way the song was played, you wouldn't think that way. A very passionate vocal here from Robin. Excellent, excellent track. We go to the second half of the album. We go into Hot Love. This is punk. This just kicks ass. 2.5 minutes of bliss. Great bridge on it. Very, very strong song. Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace. This is a cover of the Terry Reid song. Terry Reid recently passed on. Rest in peace, Terry Reid. They made this song their own. This is an excellent track. This would also be on the Budokan 2 collection that came out in 1994. And later it would be on the complete Budokan album, the live album that had songs from the original Live at Budokan from 79 and Budokan 2 from 94. Excellent song here. Very, very cool. He's a Whore. We're getting more punk here, not as punk as we were on Hot Love, but it's got that kind of feel to it. Very, very memorable. Great chorus. And the great call and response in the chorus, too. This is just very, very cool track. Wonderful. Mandacello. I don't know if Robin ever sounded as angelic as he did on this track. Now, the production on here where you can really hear the space between the instruments. This is a beautiful song. The production on this is awesome, too, because of the way Robin's voice kind of comes in and out. You can hear the guitars. They sound crystalline on this song. Very, Very cool song. A little bit of an outlier because when they did ballads, they didn't usually sound like this. But again, fantastic. The Ballad of TV Violence, I'm Not the Only Boy, is the really desperate rockin' track that ends the album. It's a very interesting closing track. Wonderful vocal performance again from Robin. Probably my least favorite song on the album, but it with all the twists and turns you have on here, there's a lot of songs on here that Beatles esque. Some songs talk about very serious subjects, which you normally didn't hear a power pop band talk about. They're more talking about love and having a good time and all that. This is very, very deep. It's a really cool tune. Interesting way to close the album, but I think it really works here. And that is Cheap Trick's self-titled debut. One of my favorite debut albums, and I don't think it gets enough credits when we talk about the great debut albums of all time. So then we get into Cheap Trick's album from 1997, which again is their 13th album. On this album, I think the band really got their mojo back. They had experienced some commercial success with a lot of professional songwriters on Lap of Luxury, a little bit on Busted as well. Those albums didn't sound like Cheap Trick for the most part. The songs were very well written, but you could tell that the band didn't have much of a hand in them at all. They were getting their mojo back a little bit on Woke Up With a Monster. And then on here, I think the band came all the way back. Rick Nielsen calls this the first album of their second career. I completely agree with Rick on this. Again, we have the same lineup. They sound fantastic. Robin may even sound better on this vocally. So let's go into the tracks. We have the opener, Anytime, which, like the Cheap Trick album from 77, starts out with Bunny on the drums. And we got a really cool groove on here. The guitars on this album are really heavy, akin to a lot of the rock music that was coming out in the 1990s. It wasn't so clean like you had on the previous few albums. And I think it really works here. A lot of people don't like this as an opener. I love when Cheap Trick starts out their albums with a banger. I think this kicks. I love Robin's vocal on the chorus. It is excellent. But again, it has this desperate feel to it. The guitars are kind of turned down during the verses. And then the choruses, they get really, really loud. It is an excellent opener. I don't think it gets enough credit. Hard to tell. This is melodic majesty. That is Cheap Trick at their best. Excellent track. I think if this album had more of a push, if Red Ant didn't go out of business, I think this is a kick-ass single. Very melodic, great chorus on it. The harmonies are wonderful. Great hooks in the guitar lines. Very joyous. Probably my favorite song on the album. Then we go into Carnival Game, which was released as a single, but I think was only released as a single to radio. This is slower, more Beatles-esque, and you say Beatles-esque a lot with Cheap Trick, or they have a lot of comparisons to The Move from back in the late 60s as well. This is very melodic too. Not quite on the level of Hard to Tell, but this is very, very cool. Then we get into Shelter. This has cello playing by Mike Biertz on it, or Biertz. And I think this is a very integral part of the song. This is a very Beatles-esque ballad where Robin sounds very tender on the vocal. And It's got a wonderful bridge on it. This is very beautiful. Wonderful track. One more thing I want to get into before I go on with the tracks on here. This was produced by Cheap Trick and Ian Taylor. And I mentioned this doesn't really have the clean guitars. It's more rock, and that is correct. And I think the production, while some may call it a little noisier, I think it really works with the songs that are written on this album. And you got albums in the future that would be a little more raw like this. And I think with the songs that are on those albums and the performances, it really, really works. So Shelter is a very strong track. When you got you let a lot of people down, which is heavier, more mid-tempo and menacing. Another great vocal from Robin on here. This is very, very cool. Then we get Baby No More, which also was a single that only went to radio. This is more akin to the punk or near punk songs that were on the Cheap Trick 1977 album. And this is very, very cool. It just very balls out. The band is playing their hearts out on here. Great beat laid down by Tom and Bunny. Very, very strong. Then we got Yeah, Yeah, which I saw the band play live 2 years ago in Williamsport at the Community Arts Center, Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I'm talking. Like I said, Cheap Trick will once in a while bring some nugget from some great deep track from one of their albums into the main set. And this went off very well live. This has more of a desperate feel, more reflective, but it's harder and heavier in its execution than a lot of the other songs on here. Very strong. Say Goodbye was the single. This was a wonderful first single. Very melodic. Nice use of dynamics in here with the guitars. A lot of tracks on here. The acoustic guitars and the electric guitars blend very, very well. Wonderful chorus. Again, Robin is doing a fantastic job on the vocal on here. Next track is Wrong All Along. Wrong All Along, it's more like Baby No More in its execution. It's a lot more rocking, has a lot of fire to it. Very, very cool. Next track is 8 Miles Low. This is another stunning balls out rocker. Again, Robin, I mean, he hits it out of the park on this album. And I love some of the lines on here. 2 of the lines in the chorus. Another notch in the bedpost, another notch in the gun, I think is awesome. It All Comes Back to You is the closer of the album. This very Beatles-esque again. It has that You're Not the Only One lyric on there that I think is very, very memorable. Rick Kanata plays piano on this, and it works out. His piano playing on this is very strong for the track. Tighter album than the self-titled debut. We got 11 tracks, about 40 minutes long, which was an anomaly back in 1997 when you had a lot of albums going well over the 1 hour mark. But this is actually a tighter album than the 1977 album. So that is Cheap Trick's self-titled, second self-titled album, 13th album, released in 1997. So, who wins the album war? Okay. Let's start with 1997. Again, this is the first album of their second career, as Rick astutely says. I agree. This is an underrated album in their catalog, easily in the top half of their catalog for quality. I think the band is firing on all cylinders. They get their mojo back. Their best album since Dream Police, in my humble opinion. I give this a 9. And a self-titled album from 1977, their debut, is my favorite Cheap Trick album. I talked about this album in a Contrarians episode over 3 years ago when we did a show on our favorite albums from 1977. This was my favorite album from 1977. If I think about it now, Steely Dan, Asia's in there. Television, Marquee Moon's in there. Fleetwood Mac Rumors is certainly a wonderful album. But this is a great album that didn't sell, but everyone who owns it or has heard it can tell you how great this one is. Maybe they wouldn't list it as their favorite, but it's among the favorites after the next few that really made the band's name and really helped the band break through. I think this is top notch. I give this a 10. So this is a 10. 1997 is a 9. Cheap Trick 1977 wins the album war today. So, what do you think of Cheap Trick's music? Have you heard these albums? This is not two of the more bigger selling albums. Neither one of these certified. And if you have these albums or heard them, which one would you choose to win the album war? What are your favorite albums by Cheap Trick? What are your favorite songs by Cheap Trick? Would you like an album ranking by Cheap Trick on my channel? Please let me know in the comments. Just to give you programming notes, my show with Daniel from Bicycle Legs Talks Music, it's being postponed. That is the live cut series where we talk about Warren Zevon Stand in the Fire. That will now be released on Saturday, August 30, 2025. In the meantime, on Saturday, August 23, 2025, I will give you a live cut show. It will be a solo show, and I will give you a few seconds to look at what I'm going to be discussing. I hope you really enjoy it. Ramones. 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 That's right. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.